Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today I am having difficulty breathing because of my allergies, but I just took some puffs off my inhaler, so I'm feeling a little bit okay, but that is not going to stop me from talking about the big news of today, which is indeed that as of this morning, technically midnight Wednesday, we have finally the Disney-Fox deal going all the way through. Now, all day yesterday, there were apparently the acquisitions of the shares and the transferring of property, etc., but it found its culmination and its finality in midnight of last night / this morning. And as we can see, it says here on CNBC, Disney's deal for Fox will be successful if it persuades investors to value it like Netflix. And so we get a number that Disney has closed its $71 billion acquisition of the majority of 21st Century Fox assets. And so it's very important for us to understand that there are only certain assets that are being acquired here. It's not all of it. They're not getting Fox News, for example, and a couple other things. And there are certain things that it does not own. However, to me, one of the biggest acquisitions that it has is not only the Fox properties like X-Men, like Fantastic Four, like Avatar, things that people maybe didn't realize they were actually getting the ownership of, which is kind of insane, especially when you realize they're making 5 to 6 more Avatar movies. I'm gonna calm down now. Anyway, you start to realize that, yeah, Disney kind of owns everything now, or at least it seems that way. And is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? I think most people would probably say that's a bad thing because I don't think anyone should own all of anything. But as it says here, Disney's $71 billion deal for the majority of 21st Century Fox's entertainment assets has closed. It will take years to judge whether Disney CEO Bob Iger spent his company's money wisely, but the benchmark for success should be clear. Make Disney look and trade like Netflix. So this is all a part, basically, of Bob Iger's intention to try and not only increase the outreach of Disney, but also to try and bring Disney into the new age of streaming. We already know that the Disney Plus streaming service is going to be coming out later on this year, but also with it acquiring the 30% share that Fox had in Hulu, it now has the vast majority of shares in Hulu. It has 60% of the shares, meaning that it has a lot of say as to what happens with Hulu. The mindset is that Disney Plus will be a consumer service, will be a family service, meaning it'll only have family-friendly content, and that possibly on Hulu what we'll have is some of the edgier stuff, possibly getting maybe some of the Marvel Netflix shows that got canceled. Maybe they'll be reborn there. That would be kind of cool for a few of them, not the Jessica Joneses, which they should just let go ahead and die somewhere because it's just a bad show. But maybe the Daredevils, maybe the Iron Fist. I know that there's not a lot of people that like Iron Fist. I personally thought it was okay. Season 2, again, Colleen Wing is awesome. Give Colleen Wing her own show. I'll watch it because she is freaking awesome in that series. But of course, also Punisher as well. It'd be really cool to see those shows have a second life. But that is indeed what they wanted. They wanted to be able to also get various series, including The Simpsons. That's right, Disney now owns The Simpsons, Modern Family, and then of course also with the movie X-Men and Fantastic Four characters, which I think kind of gives a little bit more perspective as to how big this deal is. Yes, $71 billion is a giant investment for this movie to make, or rather for this company to make. And it's going to lead to a lot of layoffs. It's estimated that around 3,000 people will lose their jobs as they try to reposition Disney and try and basically take all the people working for Fox and basically have them follow in line with how the Disney runs business. However, that's going to require them to want to shrink things down because they've got to make this money back. Now, are they going to make the money back? I would say there's a very good chance, looking at the fact that, Disney's been pretty good with its movies as of late. It's also picked up a lot of profitable series, including X-Men. I think X-Men is going to, if they play their cards right, pay gigantic sums in dividends in the in the long run. However, that's going to be the question of whether or not they try and take that and turn it woke or not. See, here's the problem with X-Men. X-Men has been known as a Fox property for a very long time at this point. And so I've been making this point earlier. I made this point actually on the High Council the other day, where I say that there's a difference between fandoms. People are trying to compare The Last Jedi to Captain Marvel. They're trying to compare the MCU fans to Star Wars fans. But the difference is that Star Wars fans have been passionate about Star Wars for 30 plus years and are pretty much set in their ways. And so when Disney took over and when Disney started to make films like The Force Awakens, some fans were like, oh, okay, I like what you're doing. There's some things you could do a little bit better. But I'm excited for the future. But then The Last Jedi came and just said, we're going to screw all over the fans. We're just going to crap all over the fans, just leave them, whatever. We don't care about what they have to think anymore. And then that's when they realized, oh, wait a minute, we hadn't built a fan base yet. MCU had a fan base built up over 10 years, 22 films. So we obviously have an understanding that because they were able to have that slow build of moving away from the Marvel Comics fans that set their base for a long time into these normies or these popcorn fans, the MCU can take risks with things like Captain Marvel and other films in the future because they don't have to worry about the agendas being in their film taking their box office. I think Captain Marvel is a great example of that. X-Men is a different animal, though, because even though X-Men is now a Disney property, and even though the X-Men, by comic book standards, is a part of Marvel, they have been seen as a separate entity. Again, when the Fox X-Men were up against the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they were always seen to be different. Again, even though people understood that they were technically a part of the same universe as far as the comics are concerned, there was a difference, meaning that X-Men has a certain fan base, meaning that X-Men has a certain fan base that expects a certain type of movie, meaning that if they right away start off by trying to put in identity politics into their X-Men movies, if they try right away, even I would say for Fantastic Four, I would say they have even less opportunity with Fantastic Four because that has never really been able to gain much of a following because you have two very poor films made. Then you had the Fanforstic, which I thought was not terrible, but that's because my expectations were so low that it was almost, subterranean. And so I came out of it saying, well, I didn't hate it. That was basically my review for the film because it was a terrible film, but overall enjoyment-wise, did not hate it all that much. And so you look to that and you think to yourself, okay, you obviously have a difference in fandoms. Here's the thing. X-Men, Fantastic Four could pay off gigantic for Disney, but they need to understand very clearly how to build the audience. They need to basically, and if Kevin Feige is going to be in charge of X-Men, if X-Men see, here's the thing. I guess this is also kind of the question. Yes, obviously, the X-Men are going to have some kind of crossover with the MCU, we assume. But is Kevin Feige going to be over them? Because if Kevin Feige is running the X-Men movies, Fantastic Four movies, and incorporating all of these new characters into the MCU, which it seems like they're going to do, then I think Kevin Feige should follow his own advice from going all the way back to the beginnings of the MCU, or at least when Kevin Feige took over for the direction of the MCU, when he focused more on telling stories that related to the comics but were also relatable to other people, telling those kinds of stories. And that is how he's going to have to start. He's essentially going to have to reboot X-Men in a lot of ways. Obviously, we look to Dark Phoenix coming out this year, and that's probably going to be the last of the Fox generation X-Men movies. I don't know if they're going to try and keep certain actors on. Obviously, I love some of the actors that they've chosen to play, especially, younger Charles Xavier, younger Magneto, all these characters I think would be really cool to see them come back. But I'm wondering if Disney might want to just start fresh with the X-Men, bringing them into the MCU. But if they do that, as I said, they have to be very careful because if they try and go a Captain Marvel route where they put in politics into the movie, it's going to tank. It's not going to do well. Oh, you say that, but then Captain Marvel did great. Yes, the reason why Captain Marvel did great is because it's a part of the MCU. You have to understand that there is a difference here. If you have a MCU film that just came out after, in between Infinity War and Endgame and is seen as a bridge to those two films, MCU fans, the generic audiences are going to look to that and say, I have to see this movie now. If you try and put in, and I would say also if you look to the, the Rotten Tomatoes number, yeah, oh my gosh, 79%, 62%. Yes, 2.8 out of 5. Times 2, that's actually not a very good score. That's actually a very low score. Actually, when you actually, the actual critic score, 6.8 out of 10. It's not a very strong score. So it's a mediocre at best film. And so the reason why the film is doing so well is because you have enough of these normies going out and saying, hey, I got to see this film because it's got MCU on it. But if they continue to go Captain Marvel in all their films going forward, well, guess what? You're going to slowly chip away at the, at the audience. With X-Men, they're going to have to essentially start from scratch. They're going to have some people left over who are going to be excited for anything that's X-Men. You're going to have the Marvel Comics fans out there that are X-Men fans being like, oh, I cannot wait to see what they do with this franchise, what they do with these characters. But at the same time, too, you're going to have to build essentially a new audience. And so if Kevin Feige is going to be in charge of this, which it seems like he will be, I hope that he goes old school MCU with the X-Men at first, because if he doesn't build that audience the correct way and instead tries to put in more political stories and more political characters and tries to treat it as he treated Captain Marvel, for example, I think he's going to soon realize, oh, wait a minute, I should have done exactly what I did for the old MCU instead of what I have going on here. That's just my thought on that. A couple more things before we end today's video. Obviously, this is all relevant to the Disney-Fox merger. We also know that Disney, having acquired for $4 billion Star Wars, which they've, again, just run into the dirt. As I said before, again, you have different audiences there. With Star Wars fans obviously did not really enjoy the politics, which is why you have Solo Star Wars Story losing $200 million at the box office. And on top of that, too, making $600 million less than the last or the second lowest grossing or rather lowest grossing Disney run Star Wars film, which was Rogue One, which made $1 billion, I think that they're going to start to realize, okay, we need to start changing things around. Game of Thrones creators taking on Star Wars looks like what they're going to do is Old Republic. Based on the rumors at this point, based on what we are being told, is that this is going to be starting, as far as timeline-wise, long before the Skywalker saga. If that is indeed the case, then what it looks like is what we're going to be getting is Old Republic, which is something that a lot of Star Wars fans have wanted for a very long time. This is a good way to get the hardcore Star Wars fans back into the franchise. Are there going to be people that are going to say, I'm done with Disney Star Wars because of Episode 8, and potentially because of Episode 9? Absolutely. But if you want to be able to at least break even, I would say, maybe get a 50-50 split on fans maybe being able to be brought back, this might be the way to do it. Do away with whatever plans you have for Rian Johnson, because I'm telling you right now, anything with his name on it in the Star Wars universe is going to be toxic, and it's not going to do well. But you have the guys that do Game of Thrones coming in, doing an Old Republic storyline. This is going to get a lot of people excited. Some of those in-betweeners, and I would say even some of the hardcore fans who have written off Disney, this might actually be able to bring some of them back. So I think that would be a good idea going forward. Also, dealing with this and dealing with Rotten Tomatoes numbers, we obviously know Captain Marvel. This is basically, you know what? I'm going to save that for another video because that's a whole other topic down the road. So anyway, I would like to know your thoughts. What are your thoughts on the Disney deal? So again, I'm going to do another video maybe today, maybe for later on this week, about how Rotten Tomatoes inflates the numbers, and it really does hurt not only their credibility, but also it really does, I think, hurt the overall movies that they are, inflating in the process. But what are your thoughts on the Disney-Fox deal? Are you excited for the future of Star Wars? Are you excited for the fact that we're going to get an Old Republic story? Again, I know that there's a lot of people going to say, I don't care about Star Wars anymore, but this is not a part of the episodic trilogy. This is going to be a brand new series with brand new directors with a new vision, dealing with stories that have not been told on the big screen yet. And I think that that alone has me, at the very least, excited. But also, what are your other thoughts about the Disney-Fox deal? Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think that they're going to make their money back? Do you think that they're going to do what I think, which is Disney Plus going to be a family-friendly service, the family network, and then Hulu being more of the adult, some of the edgier stuff? And also, do you think that Disney's overtaking of the world is getting very close to really coming to fruition? Let me know in the comments below, but also let me know your thoughts about my own, opinion on this fandom. Do you think that there are these separate fandoms and that we have to look at them differently? That the Star Wars fandom is not the same group of people necessarily as the MCU fans, that the MCU fans are not the same fans as the X-Men fans. I really do think that if Disney wants to be able to make profit and make massive profits off of the X-Men property, they're going to have to be able to change their way of thinking and try and basically reach out to those fans, because MCU fans are the normies now. The normies run the show. And these are people that don't really care a whole lot about the behind-the-scenes stuff and don't really care a whole lot about the comics themselves, because they're going to buy anything with MCU on it. But if you're going to bring in brand new characters that they already know, because again, the normies might not be all that bright. I myself am what I consider an enlightened normie, a normie that pays attention. So there are some people that are going to be like, wait a minute, this is not MCU. This is Fox. That's been acquisitioned. They're going to have to change things around. Let me know your thoughts about that also in the comments below. If you like this video, smash that like button, give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe. You're all the amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.